There's an article out there talking about the most toxic comic book YouTubers on the entire interwebs. It's listed out, and somehow I'm number 2. How am I less toxic than Perch? There is no way that Thinking Critical is a less toxic comic book personality on YouTube than Perch, but somehow he took the number 1 spot. I feel a little bit jealous. In fact, you know, when I read this, I feel pretty bad about myself, the way that I've conducted my channel and what I've said about comic books, and I might need to apologize. I'm going to run down the entire gamut of accusations against me. At the end, I might just have to apologize for being the most toxic, well, apparently the second most toxic comic book YouTuber on the entire interwebs. And there's a few other people on here, including Perch, who's a friend of mine, and a couple other YouTubers that he specifically has some things to say about them. And I think really when you dive into it, and you can see some of the little jabs that the author actually puts in there. He is a comic book writer. I guess he has a website. I'm not going to post it. I'm not here to actually promote his channel or whatnot. But you can actually see what his real issue with a lot of these personalities on YouTube are. It seems like he tends to agree with the points or the criticisms that we're laying out. And I do definitely want to say, if you read this and you're upset because you think they attacked me personally or Perch personally or any of the people on there personally, please do not go out on my behalf and start defending my honor. I am a grown-ass man. I'm here to talk about it. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I am certainly not asking you to go out there and defend my reputation. I can do it on my own. And I imagine most of the other YouTubers out there feel that way. We will preface this what the article states to begin with, which I think is a lie. I'm going to be able to poke a few holes in this for certain. It opens up stating, for the last 2 years, I have been doing a deep dive into comic book related YouTube channels. I generally try to avoid such obsessive comics fandoms like the plague, but I sacrifice many brain cells and my sense of logic to power through this cesspool so you don't have to. I don't believe he's been watching my channel for 2 years because he gets a lot of stuff incorrect. He actually gets a lot of stuff incorrect on the other channels as well. So I highly doubt that he spent 2 years watching all these channels that he discusses and came away with these criticisms of the way that we are criticizing the industry. I guess it's comic book YouTube inception. We're going 3 levels deep on this. We're doing criticisms of the critics of the actual industry. And that is fine. I don't mind the criticism, but I do want to clear a few things up. And I do want to shine a light on a few of the statements that are made in here that really identify what this author's problem is with most of these channels. And we'll start off with little old me first. I wasn't first on the list, but I'm going to start out with me because I'm going to add some clarification and directly address some of the criticisms of me personally, and then I'll have a few things on the other channels. It says, Thinking Critical is where mid-level or washed-up comics creators go to complain about the industry they have little to no stake in. I imagine with that statement, he's talking about Aaron Sparrow, Joe Corallo, Mark Pellegrini, Tim Lim, maybe Doug Ernst, some of the creators that I do have on my channel rather regularly. But like I said, this is a comic book creator, and I will put their resumes up against him. You know, Joe is an award-winning comic book editor. Aaron Sparrow was once the editor in charge of all Disney properties at Boom Studios. Not one of the big 2, but it's not that far off. He certainly was on a track, if he chose to pursue it, to perhaps get into Marvel and DC as an editor at some point. And he's writing for HBO Max. So I will put Aaron and Joe's resume just as comic pros that are in there right now against him. As far as other guests I've had, I would certainly put Chuck Dixon and Robert Venditti and Matt Kent and Ron Gardy's resumes up against this guy. As far as the non-pros, your Tim Lim, Mark Pellegrini, Doug Ernst, some of the other hobbyists are out there doing a lot of crowdfunding. I'll definitely put their resumes up against them too. If you haven't noticed, Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini are making a ton of money every single quarter with all the stuff that they're publishing out there. Doug has done fantastic work. And I'll also say that in their private lives, the stuff that they don't do for comic books, Tim's like, you know, he's an audiologist. He's a medical practitioner. Doug Ernst was a journalist for a major newspaper. So it's not like these guys are failing in anything. The comic pros and hobbyists that I bring onto my channel are people that I believe in, I'm friends with. And for him to take a little poke like that, I think is pretty hypocritical considering the career that this person's had. He continues on, crying about woke people are the causes of all their failures, not their mediocre art and derivative stories. I'm sure I've used the word woke and probably SJW even here on the channel, but I have over 2,000 videos. I don't really talk about woke or SJW all that often. If I'm talking about a subject like that, I actually specifically address what I think is the issue. He also says, it is all opinion-based ramblings under the guise of criticism. I have never claimed to be anything. but a cynical asshole that likes comic books, and this is my feelings about them in the industry. I happen to be really good at research because of what I've done in a past life, which he's about to get messed up pretty good when he tries to say who I am and what I'm about. And I'm able to flesh a lot of things out. I'm actually really good at research, and that's one of the things that has helped me have a pretty successful channel. He also talks about the comics aficionados. Most of the dorks on this stupid channel skate the line of comics gate adjacent. Wes, the host of the train wreck, does these long live streams with multiple mouth breathers, having angry nerd speak in a dollar store microphones. Yes, we are dorks, we're geeks, we're nerds. There's nobody on the comics aficionados that is claiming they are nothing but a dork. You've got that one right. As far as the multiple mouth breathers, while I do think that's a funny line, I don't think it's completely accurate. Heaving angry nerd speak in a dollar store microphones. I'm sorry that a lot of the contributors to the channel just aren't rich and our equipment does not live up to your standards, sir. If you would like to donate some money, maybe I can buy them some new microphones and you can get some better audio quality while you stalk me for 2 more years. How's that? He also says, I think this Christian Crusader ex-CIA hack host is hoarding buckets of cream corn and watching countless hours of Fox News in his downtime. Yes, I am a Christian. I'm unapologetically Christian. I talk about it here on the channel. I'm not here preaching, but I'm certainly not here hiding my faith either. And I'm never going to do that. If you want to talk down to me because I'm a Christian, go on, sir. Ex-CIA hack. This is where I know this guy hasn't watched my channel very much. I've never worked for the CIA. I've never claimed to work for the CIA. I certainly was an intelligence personnel for the Air Force, but I've never worked for one of the 3-letter agencies. I've said multiple times since I started my channel that I am retired Air Force. If you're in the Air Force, you don't work for the CIA. They're 2 separate organizations. I have never, ever claimed or insinuated that I've ever worked with the CIA. So I don't even know where the fuck he got that one. Hoarding buckets of cream corn. Hey, perhaps I got a bucket of cream corn underneath my desk. I don't know what that has to do with my comic book opinions. Is he saying I'm fat and ugly? Is that what he's saying? Because I've seen this dude's picture, and the next time he gets a piece of pussy will probably be the first. I'm putting that one out there. And he also says watching countless hours of Fox News because this dude has a major league hard-on and an issue with people that are conservative. That's the real issue for the most part that he has with the vast majority of the channels that he's talking about. And I'm going to highlight that multiple times here. I hate to break it to you. I don't watch any Fox News. I don't watch any CNN news. Sometimes I'll read an article on BBC. Sometimes I'll read an article here and there. Mostly I get my news through a few YouTubers and news articles. I actually don't watch any of the news on TV because I think it's so negative. And my wife basically has picked up the habit. She only watches the local news. I'm here in the Philippines, so I know a lot about Filipino ongoing news and breaking news and stuff like that, but sorry to burst your bubble. I actually don't watch any Fox News. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm actually a big fan of Tucker Carlson, which I know this guy isn't. This is where I guess he's saying that I'm a bad father. And this is how I know this guy absolutely has no kids. First of all, because I see him, I know he's never had a piece of pussy in his life. But reading this motherfucker's had no kids. And in this story that he tries to tell here, he's leaving out some very fucking crucial facts that I've absolutely provided here on the channel because I've told this story 3 or 4 times probably over the years. Like I said, I've got 2,000 videos. It's like 3 or 4 times I've actually mentioned this story. There's a couple extra amplifying details I'll provide. There's a lot more stuff I could say in this, but I don't give a shit that much. But I will explain myself as apparently I'm a bad dad. Shockingly, Wes recently regaled us with the story about going to see a recent Star Wars movie with his family. No, I did not. This wasn't recent. This was months back, and it wasn't a recent Star Wars movie. It was The Last Jedi, which came out in 2017. Came out 2 months after I moved here, and my son is 2 years old at the time. Remember that when he tells this story, and how I fucking know this dude has got no children. He said within the first minutes of said film, he was fuming and raging so hard his wife had to take their son out of the theater. Yes, my wife and my 2-year-old did leave the theater 15 minutes into the film. I hate to break it to you, buddy, but on the way to the theater, because I live in the Philippines, the theater's not where I live. I had to drive 4.5 hours, had to get a hotel room. On the way to the theater, there was a little kid zone where kids can play. We had taken our 2-year-old at the time earlier to go, I believe, see Trolls. And even that movie, which is super bright and has kid-friendly songs, he couldn't make it through the actual entire movie. And we knew that pretty soon into the film, the Star Wars movie, that they were going to need to leave if he didn't fall asleep. That was the only way he was going to be able to make it through this film. So we had already scouted out this play area. We knew that's where we were going to go set him. That's where my wife was going to take him. But we were going to see if perhaps he could take a nap through this very loud movie and she could watch the movie too. Turned out not to be the case. He never went to sleep and he was goofing off the whole time. But yes, my wife, being my wife, could see on my face that I was not having a good time. I certainly mumbled motherfucker underneath my breath when I saw old Finn stumble out and he had all those tubes on him. And I realized that it was a completely joke, terrible movie. Unfortunately, I didn't realize it was going to get worse. I can tell you as a dad, I didn't become a robot when that happened. I still have feelings. When shit happens and I'm like, that fucking sucks, I still have an emotional reaction because I like Star Wars that much. I've literally been watching it my entire life. I watched every film. I watched the fucking Ewok specials. I watched the cartoons as a kid. I had the little case from Darth Vader. I cracked my brother over the head with it, knocked him out when we were kids. I have been an enormous Star Wars fan my entire life. So when I watched the worst Star Wars film ever made, and within the first 15 minutes, I figured out just how terrible it was, yes, I had an emotional reaction. Guilty as charged. Sorry, sir. If you had children, you would know that it doesn't make you a robot, and you can still have emotional reactions, negative even, in front of your kids when they're 2 years old, playing with their moms, and they're about to leave the theater anyway. You don't have kids, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. He also says, this is the kind of toxic fandom that scares me the most. It worries me to no end to think someone could care this much about a piece of random corporate pop culture trash. You know what? You are the pot calling the kettle black, motherfucker. You just admitted you watched my channel for 2 years cyber stalking me because you fucking hated my channel so much. I went to Star Wars, to that movie, because I fucking love Star Wars so much. And I was fucking completely turned off from the minute that movie came on. That is a natural reaction. You disliking my channel and all the other ones that you're talking about here in your article and going and watching them for 2 years straight is fucking weird. You have no fucking high horse to stand on at all. He also says Comics by Perch and Thinking Critical do videos together. You can get a double dose of divisive rhetoric and moronic takes on the comic book industry if that's your thing. Absolutely. If you want a double dose of rhetoric and moronic takes on comic books, Thinking Critical is the channel for you. You notice he never says I'm wrong. He just doesn't like the way I deliver it. He doesn't like that I'm a Christian, and he thinks that I'm some type of like right-wing guy or something. I'm a conservative leading centrist. I hate to break it to you. Not everything to the fucking left of Stalin is the alt-right. Sorry, buddy. I hate to break it to you. As far as Perch, he was number one, so he must really dislike Perch. He says, let's start out with the lecherous alcoholic that goes by Comics by Perch. That is some pretty nasty stuff to say about somebody. I've been to Perch's channel a lot. I don't watch comic book YouTube all that much, to be completely honest, because I don't want my hot takes, to be tainted by other people's opinions. But lecherous alcoholic, that means like lustful alcoholic or something. Maybe this dude's thesaurus was all over the place. Or do you think Perch is like this erotically suggestive channel where he's just drinking booze the whole time? To call him an alcoholic when he absolutely does not know the guy whatsoever is just, it tells you exactly who this guy is. This is a weird statement. Corporate Comics Perch is a wannabe Tucker Carlson who speaks with false gravitas and creepy nerd dad authority. So like I said, he really dislikes conservatives. You know what's really weird? I've talked to Perch a lot. We're friends. He's like a centrist that's left-leaning. He's not a conservative really at all. He might have some conservative-leaning tendencies here and there, but for the most part, he's a liberal. For a lot of people, including this guy, if you're anywhere to the left of Stalin, you're the alt-right. I'm sorry, Perch, you've been lunched into with us, because that's a lot of what this guy has to say about other people. He also says, plus, Perch always takes the corporations and HR side. For him, freedom of speech means nothing if your speech goes against the corporate brand. Silly artist, you deserve to be poor for having an opinion. I have seen multiple videos of Perch, and I don't watch a whole lot of YouTube, but I have seen his videos talking about how artists deserve to be paid more, about how there's not enough money in the comic book industry, and how a lot of creators are being screwed over. That's why I know this dude. He might have watched like 2 years worth of content and like skip, and hit the greatest hits or something, but he certainly wasn't watching our channel straight for 2 years. He was stalking us, but not quite as intently as you let you believe. And that is completely against a lot of the things that Perch has actually said on his channel. He says it's easy to see Perch just as a transparent corporate comics shill. He is yet another hanger-on with nothing better to do than make hundreds of YouTube videos gushing over manga sales and complaining about the low sales of comic books made for adult children. This dude's a comic book writer. I'm surprised that he's putting down his audience like that. And he thinks that you and I are all just adult children. You're not going to shame me into feeling bad about liking comic books. You're not going to be able to shame Perch into feeling that way either. And it's really funny. He's got nothing better to do than to make YouTube videos. You have no idea what Perch's life is really like. If you actually do it, you would realize how stupid you made yourself look with that one. He also says this about Clownfish TV. This guy is a card-carrying ally. You know how, like, the worst kind of ally that's always there is like, I love women, until they end up on the news, or there's a woman that says something they don't like and then all women are bad. That's this guy. He says, I can't stand this douchey cuckold. Beyond a lot of things, he's not a cuckold. He's actually a really great guy. He's been on my channel, one of the nicest people I've ever met in comic book YouTube, and his screeching harpy of a wife co-host. I bet he wouldn't be saying that if she said things that he liked. But because she has opinions he doesn't agree with, she's a screeching harpy. He's one of those guys. The worst kind of ally you could ever have. If you're female friends with this guy, watch your back. He also says, I have noticed Wes and Perch use Clownfish as a source a lot. That is not true. I may have used Clownfish as a source in one of my videos, maybe like 2 or 3, but I have like 2,000. To actually find one where I use Clownfish as a source for any of the content that I made would have been very difficult. I don't think he actually saw any of this. I think someone probably told him that, because it would have been very difficult to find that video, and it certainly would have been impossible to say that I use them as a source a lot. Like, I'm sorry, buddy, you've been lied to. I certainly don't use Clownfish TV as a source a lot. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I certainly trust Clownfish's opinion on a lot of subject matters. He's worked in Disney. Neon and Geeky Sparkles actually had a Disney-centric website that was associated with Disney. They were part of like the family or whatever. So the guy definitely have some sources within Disney that are very reliable, and he's been right on a lot of stuff. And that probably really upsets him. He was also upset that he made Kevin Smith cry. I thought that was funny. This is what he had to say about Comics Matter with your boy Zach. This channel is for right-wing ex-military bro-hams who love comic books. This dude has a real problem with Christians. He has a problem with military, and he certainly has a problem with anybody that identifies as conservative. It isn't afraid to identify as conservative, because you can be conservative nowadays, but you can't be conservative. You know what I mean? It's like being gay in the 60s or something. You can do it, but you better not do it, because if you actually come out and tell people your political leanings, whatever, we want to cancel, and we want to do some mean things to you. Unfortunately for them, Richard just seems to have been Teflon, and they can't get anything to stick, and he's still making money, and I'm sure that really upsets him, because hey, this dude claims to be a professional comic book writer, and I just don't think he has the notoriety or any of the success that Richard does, who I imagine he thinks is a hack. He also talks about Ethan Van Sciver from Comic Artist Pro Secrets. Once again, driving home what really upsets him. This dude hates anybody from a religious background. I guess his right-wing blather and magic Mormon underwear make it okay for him to spread hate speech and use Nazi imagery in his sketchbook covers. There's so many easy ways to debunk that one, but right there, right-wing magic Mormon underwear. He hates that he's Mormon. I don't even think that he is Mormon anymore, but he hates that he was raised that way, and he definitely hates that he's conservative. That's the real underlying issue he has with a majority of the criticisms and the comic channels that he's actually going after here. Finally, he talks about Yellow Flash. He's not my best friend, but he has certainly been friendly to me. I've had him on the channel. Really, really nice guy. This is what he says. What are these agenda-driven fools obsessed with shoehorning their right-wing politics into comics? I've never seen Yellow Flash shoehorn any politics into comics. I don't think he's even written one. I don't think he's an editor for a comic book publisher. I don't think he's like the editor-in-chief. I don't think he has any say in what goes into comic books. But this guy, the conspiracy theorist, thinks Yellow Flash is shoehorning right-wing politics into comic books. He says, these videos genuinely disturb me. Yellow Flash sounds like a creeper Sunday school teacher, the one with no kids but really loves children. I don't know, buddy. That feels like a really apt description of you. I know that you don't have any kids, but you're talking about the way that I treat my own children. You're talking about Yellow Flash, who I'm pretty sure does have a family and is a family man, but you don't have one yourself. You're the worst kind of hypocrite that is talking about things he has no fucking clue about. He also goes in there and he kind of trashes cartoonist kayfabe. I don't know those guys very much. I actually don't really watch their channel, but that's what the guy has to say. He identifies what his real issues are, plain as day. He doesn't like anyone that's religious. He doesn't like conservatives. And if you look at his criticism, he never says our opinions are wrong. He never says the content on here, everything they say is bad. He just doesn't like the way we say it or what our personal beliefs are. And that's really what upsets me. I guess this all brings us to the magic moment. Is it time for Wes from Thinking Critical to apologize for his toxic behavior in his toxic comic book YouTube channel? I'm sorry I wasn't more toxic, so I couldn't make your 2 years stalking me and the other comic book YouTubers out there even worse than it originally was. It infuriates me to no end that somehow I ended up number 2 on your list instead of number 1. I feel that is a failure on my part. I'm changing some things. I'm going to become more toxic on the channel. I apologize to the viewers. You wanted hotter takes. You're getting hotter takes. There's no way I'm changing who I am. I'm a cynical asshole to my very core. I'm only going to turn up the heat, baby. I'm sorry. I could have done it better. I could have been a contender. I could have been the number 1 toxic comic book YouTuber in the world, and somehow I let Perch take the crown from me, take the crown off of this head. Never again, folks. And you, dude, you're a fucking weirdo. For all the conservatives out there that have made it to the end of this video, this is much longer than what I'd normally do it on the channel here lately. I had this conversation not too long ago with Brett R. Smith, comic book colorist, worked at DC, worked at Marvel, worked on the first Jawbreakers project. It's an interesting conversation about conservatives in media and in comic books. I think it's very enlightening. If you haven't checked it out, this is probably the video for you if you came here for all your conservative comic book news.